All right, folks, this is outside of Dallas, a Ford dealer, and look at these lots, Dad. Cars and SUVs and Broncos and Mach-E's. There are cars and trucks everywhere, man. This is wild.
Yes, they say things are bigger in Texas. Well, that Ford dealer is going to need a bigger lot based on the number of vehicles they have. That's kind of crazy.
Look at this. That was the front.
Yeah.
Now we're going to the back. And in the back, there's even more vehicles. Pops, we know that the car market has flipped. Dealers have too many vehicles. The supply and demand, equation has finally gotten out of whack. And now, fortunately, in the consumer's favor. Before we jump into the data, let's look over at Cox Automotive, Dad. One of the outcomes of supply and demand becoming more favorable for consumers would be incentives.
Yes.
This chart that we absolutely love, the blue line showing us the percentage of a vehicle's transaction price made up of dealer or manufacturer incentives, 5.2%, Dad, up from 2.2% just a year ago. Incentive spend up 136% year over year. So before we dive into the Dallas Ford market to kind of like really understand how oversupplied certain vehicles are, what do you make of this, Dad? Incentives up 136% year over year.
That's a great sign that they're up as much as they are. They really should probably be up 250% to get us back to where we used to be, which was incentives typically made up about 10 to 11% of what the selling price was. And those incentives came from the manufacturers. During the COVID years, the incentive spend was next to nothing. Now it's going back up again. We need it to go up a little bit more, but at the rates we're seeing now, these are the highest rate of incentive spends that we have seen all year, which means that during the month of December, and this information is only through November, during the month of December, we will see that number go up even more. So December should be, if you're in the market for a new car, the best time of the year to buy a new car in 2023.
Good information here from Cox. So the average percent of a vehicle's transaction price that's made up of incentive is 5.2%. That we understand. For luxury vehicles, it's 8%. And for full-size SUVs, minivans, small, mid-size pickups, they are around 3%, Dad, and below 3%. So it's different based on the type of vehicle. For example, you're out there looking for that Toyota RAV4 Prime. You're not going to have 5.2% of that vehicle's transaction price tied up in Toyota financing it for you, or underwriting it, for you. So you have 5.2% as the average. Luxury cars more, certain vehicles that are in less supply, less. And Dad, let's jump in. Let's look now in Dallas, where that video was taken from at the beginning. You're looking to buy a Ford F-150 in Dallas. You're looking at the XLT trim. There's 157 days supply. Look at this, Dad. 2,296 2023 Ford F-150 XLTs for sale within 100 miles of that dealership, yet only 660 have sold in the last 45 days.
And if I may, Zach, we're talking about Texas, where it's almost a law in Texas where you have to drive a pickup truck. So if there's 157-day supply of that type of pickup truck in the Dallas area, that does not bode well for somebody that's trying to sell pickup trucks. So you should look for greater incentives from both the manufacturer and the dealer in that marketplace, because that's a marketplace that typically sells a poop ton of pickup trucks. And for them to have, at least double the normal day supply, that's not a good thing.
All right, now, Dad, let's take a quick peek there were a lot of Broncos sports in that video. Here's a 2024 Broncos Sport Big Bend. 1,223 days supply for this year, make, model, and trim. Holy cow. 299 of these for sale in that market within 100 miles, but only 11 have sold of these Broncos Sports. We know the Broncos sell. Those compete really well with the Jeep Wrangler. But the Broncos Sport, Dad, this is another example of a vehicle sitting around. What about Ford's electric vehicles? Go for it, Dad.
Well, I was going to say on the 2024 Broncos Sport like that, it could be because they might have just fairly recently arrived, and there's probably a limited amount, if any incentives at all at the moment on those.
We've got the Ford F-150 Lightning. At the time of us filming this was just after Ford announced halving, cutting their production in half for 2024. Halving? Oh, man, I give up. Their production for 2024, Pops. There's a 133-day supply of F-150 Lightning XLTs in that Dallas area. Again, too many vehicles, not enough customers. And then you have the Mustang Mach-E, a 251-day supply, Pops. So no wonder we see incentives increasing, and incentives are non-trivial, Dad. We have a guide back on CarEdge.com, the best December incentives out there right now. Tons of 0%, 1.9%, 0.9% and 1.9% financing options, and some of them go all the way out to 63 months. I mean, heck, Dad, we did Mazda deals recently. Customers were getting 1.9% for 72 months.
Wow.
I mean, that is a manufacturer underwriting the sale of their vehicle because supply and demand have gotten out of whack.
Exactly. And the average new car interest rate right now, when it's not incentivized by the manufacturer, is right around 9%. So if you can get 1.9 for 72 months, I mean, you're saving 7% on your annual percentage rate. That is not an insignificant savings. That is rather huge, honestly.
It is huge. Dad, let's talk about it for just a quick moment. Cash versus finance incentives. With what you just said, for most people out there, the rational decision, the better financial decision is take the finance incentive, right?
Exactly, because I think it's 85 or 86% of all people finance their vehicles. A very small percentage actually pays cash. So to take the financing and be able to save every month for 60 months or 72 months or whatever the term is, it's typically a much greater savings than if you got a cash incentive.
This is not the first time on this channel we've had community members either send to us via email. My email is Zach, Z-A-C-H at CarEdge.com, the community forum, or on social media, video footage and photos of what's going on in their neighborhood. Remember, Dad, that Ram dealer in Pennsylvania that Rob sent into us? Just rows upon rows of vehicles. These are the signs in your neighborhood of the market truly changing. That's not what that lot looked like 2 years ago, and it's certainly obviously what it looks like today. The downstream impact of that is more affordability because the vehicle is now being, incentivized. We just did the video on car price inflation. So again, Ford prices went up 35%, and now maybe you're saving 10%. It's still a tricky proposition, but yeah, go for it.
And if I may, don't just settle for the incentive from the manufacturer, okay? You want to work the dealer for a discount as well. The incentive from the manufacturer hasn't cut any profit margin out of that deal. Now, I'm not saying dealers should work for free, okay, but they don't need to make as much as what they had been making. So if there's an incentive, I don't know, say a Jeep Renegade, I believe there's 15% off of MSRP from the manufacturer. Well, you should probably get another 5-6% off from the dealer on top of that. So you should be looking at a total of somewhere around 20% off. So always remember to get the dealer to discount the vehicle above and beyond whatever the incentive is from the manufacturer.
If you need help figuring out what a reasonable target discount is, we've built this into CarEdge.com for our data users. Every vehicle tells you a target discount, which is the dealer discount off of MSRP plus any additional incentive. So go avail yourselves of that information. Thank you to the community member that sent us in that video from Dallas, Texas. And thank you to the OEMs for stepping up and starting to bring incentives back. We need more of it because these prices are unaffordable, supply and demand out of whack. And now we need to incentivize people purchasing again. And, 0% financing doesn't sound that bad right about now, Pops.
Well, last time I checked, there's no interest at 0%. So yeah, that sounds pretty damn good to me.